Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast. This time we are back where we are going to be reviewing all the biggest stories in Hollywood, entertainment, film, and television for the week of May 20th through the 24th. I am one of your hosts. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined by Liz Seiko.
Hello.
And also Zach Miller.
What up? What up?
So this is something we're trying out. There's a lot of interesting stuff that comes in the news where we get castings and first looks and trailers and rumors. So we kind of wanted to do a quick wrap up of all the big stories that kind of happened within the week and discuss them with you guys. So if you guys are interested in this kind of stuff, let us know in the comments if you want to see more of this. Be sure to give this video a like if you can and subscribe to us. We are currently on the road to 500 subscribers at the network. So first story that I saw that caught my eye was that Steve Carell is going back to TV. Now, he did do that show, The Patient, a few years ago on FX, but everyone obviously knows Steve Carell best for playing Michael Scott on The Office. But this one, he's going to be doing a series on HBO with the showrunner from Ted Lasso, Bill Lawrence. So it's going to be a single camera project, half hour. So again, going in the comedy route. And he's also reuniting the writer with the writer of Scrubs. And this is going to be an untitled comedy as of right now that is set on a college campus that centers around an author's complicated relationship with his daughter. And Steve Carell is playing the author. Are you a fan of The Office, first of all? And are you excited or don't really care about Steve Carell returning to comedy and on HBO?
I am a fan of The Office. I'm not one of those crazed fans, okay, I would say, but this makes me happy, this storyline, because I think it's time for Steve Carell to come back to what he's really good at. He's been doing a lot of more dramatic roles, and I liked it in the beginning, but I don't know, like The Patient I watched, and I was not a fan of it.
Wow, interesting.
I think he just gets kind of dulled down. Or also, what was the Wes Anderson film?
Oh, Asteroid City.
Yeah. Oh my God. I thought he was one of the worst. I thought he was one of the worst actors in that cast.
Yeah.
Because I think he's such just a physical comedic actor, and Wes is much more stationary. And so for Steve Carell to be in that world, it was not in his pocket, which I get it. Sometimes you want to stretch. Sometimes you want to do new things. But I'm glad to see that he's circling back to the thing that everybody knew him for when he first started.
Yeah, for sure. Zach?
Yeah, I think this is okay. I remember he also did that show Space Force not too long ago.
Really bad.
Really bad.
The show was really bad. I didn't get through 3 episodes. I don't think.
And I think that's not really at the fault of Steve Carell. I think that's his work that has happened post Office. He's had a couple of movies like Foxcatcher and Beautiful Boy. Those are pretty good dramatic roles. And then he's done these spurts of comedy again, so he hasn't had the best talent attached to his projects in a while. I mean, Wes was definitely a very talented individual. I just think they underused his abilities in Asteroid City. But I think that if this is good and well developed and the scripts are playing to his strengths as an actor, then this is going to pay off to be a good thing. Yeah,
I like the fact that he's teaming up with Bill Lawrence, because Ted Lasso was obviously such an impactful show in comedy for such a long time before it ended. And it turned Jason Sudeikis into a star, and Steve Carell is obviously already a star, especially for the role of Michael Scott. So seeing him return to comedy and on HBO, which I do think is going to be interesting to see him play in that no holds barred area of comedy, which is going to be interesting. I've liked some of his dramatic work. I really like him in Foxcatcher. I love him in The Big Short. And I saw Last Flag Flying. I don't know if anybody else saw that, but I really liked it. Him, Bryan Cranston, and Lawrence Fishburne. That was really good. But yeah, recently, I think the best thing he's done is The Morning Show, and he's not even the main focus of that show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Asteroid City, I kind of forgot about a minute. And The Patient, I only watched a couple of episodes of it. I didn't think it was necessarily bad. I just didn't think the show in general was that appealing, which is probably why I stopped watching it. But I'm definitely interested to see him return to comedy and work with somebody like Bill Lawrence, because I do think it can be an effective pairing, especially on HBO now, losing all these comedies within the calendar year. And there's a lot of reports in the industry that they're going heavy focus on comedy because of that, because they're losing Curb. They lost... What else did they lose? They lost 3 comedies.
Barry was started as a comedy and went weird.
In a crazy, twisty way. I think there's one more they lost too. And then Hacks, they waited for a while for them to come back for season 3. So I'm interested. We'll see kind of what happens with it. But
I hope it does good.
yeah, I hope it does good too.
What do we got next?
Next up is, this was just announced actually today as of our recording, but the next film from Steven Spielberg has been announced. Now, there's not a lot of info on it, but we do know that it's going to come out May 15th, 2026, which within the same month in 2026, which is obviously quite a long time for now, 2 years, there is currently scheduled Avengers 5 and Star Wars all in the same month. Yeah. Kind of crazy.
Wow.
So it could be one of the biggest months maybe in cinema history if they all stick to their dates. I highly doubt they do. But this is going to be a Universal movie, and it's going to be written by David Koepp, who is a longtime collaborator of Spielberg's. He worked on Jurassic Park and the sequel to Jurassic Park, War of the Worlds, as well as the fourth Indiana Jones movie. Combined, those two, all those films have grossed over $3 billion worldwide. The only thing that I have seen online is that this will revolve around a UFO sighting. So maybe returning to sort of that Close Encounters of the Third Kind sort of era of Spielberg.
E.T.
Yeah, E.T. type stuff too. Now, there's no word again on like if this is going to be more of a grounded sort of thing or if there's going to be this epic scale that Spielberg is so used to doing. But Zach, I know you're a big Spielberg guy. What are your thoughts so far on what we know about this project?
I think it's kind of interesting because it's also coming like it's one of the other big legendary directors of Hollywood after the success that Nolan had with Oppenheimer, and maybe their Universal is giving him the heels to do something spectacular again. And Spielberg has just a very magnetic way of presenting his stories, even in his like stories with Close Encounters and War of the Worlds and E.T. It's very familiar to humanity and reflecting on humanity too. So, you know, I'm interested to see in like now his fourth outing with extraterrestrial beings, like what he's gonna flip the script on. Maybe it'll be an adaptation of something. I don't really know, but I mean, you know, I'll show up for a Spielberg movie for sure. So
for sure. Liz?
Yeah.
I just think it's crazy that they're like putting out a specific date from 2 years from now without putting out any other information.
That's like 100%. That's for shareholders. That's for people to be like, Universal is teaming up with Spielberg.
Yeah,
because
for this day.
Teamed up with, I think Nolan's Oppenheimer was Universal too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're in the big game hunting business right now, trying to get all the big name directors.
I just feel like there's no way that all of these most of these films are probably going to get pushed.
Most likely.
Yeah. Most likely.
Possible.
There's no
Movies
way.
Get pushed every single week.
Honestly. So the fact that they're like, May 15th, 2 years from now, see you there. That's crazy without putting out even like a tagline.
Yeah.
I feel
Welcome
like I don't
to Hollywood.
have, yeah. I feel like I don't have like a strong opinion on any of this just because there's not enough to know, but my first inkling is based on who is he's collaborating with on the script. It makes me think that it's going to be kind of like the big blockbuster film that maybe is not my taste. But
like the
we'll
Oppenheimer.
See. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Spielberg as a director in general?
I like him. I think he's good. He's not like my favorite though.
What's your favorite Spielberg movie? If do you know it off the top of your head?
No, I guess I don't know. I feel like I need to look at like the full thing.
Well, he's had a very interesting recent history. Like all of his movies are very all over the place. I mean, he made his biographical film The Fabelmans in 2022. Before that, he remade West Side Story. He did Ready Player One, which I know some people, I love that movie, but I know there's a lot of people that don't like that movie. Yeah. He did The Post, The BFG, Bridge of Spies, Lincoln, and War Horse. That's his last, like, let's see, 2, 4, 6. That's his last 8 films, going back all the way from 2011.
I don't know. I feel like he also, the one thing that I do respect of him is that he does such different films. Yeah. Like I feel like he doesn't stick to it of like, no, I only do crime or I only do
I like
war.
That too.
Yeah.
Like he's literally jumping from genre and tone, and I feel like he's always kind of stretching himself. I don't know if I have a favorite. I would say if I had to like pick one, it would maybe be
Catch Me If You Can.
No. I mean, I really do love Jurassic Park.
Yeah, Jurassic Park is probably
I
besides
do love
Jaws,
that film.
Jurassic Park is probably my favorite.
Also, The Color Purple, E.T. I mean, just like the classics.
Yeah. But none of recent ones that stick out to you.
No.
Well, we'll come back with more news on this movie when we know more about it. But for now, that's all we have. So all we can go on is that be sure to be in a seat on May 15th, 2026 to see the new Spielberg movie as of right now. Transitioning a little bit because we were just talking Oppenheimer. Let's talk about someone that was involved very heavily in Barbie, which is Margot Robbie. The next film that she's going to be producing is actually going to be based on the video game The Sims. This is a crazy story. So The Sims, which is a game that was very, very popular in the early 2000s, is getting a film. It's going to be directed by Kate Herron, who directed a lot of Loki for Disney Plus. And again, Margot Robbie is going to be producing through her Lucky Chat banner. And there was a report from Puck News that's reporting that it has finally found a home at Amazon MGM. And they said Netflix was very big on it. They wanted the film rights. They were close to getting it. It could have been probably a great franchise for them, but they obviously couldn't guarantee them a theatrical release, and that's what Margot obviously wanted, and probably Kate. So they decided that they were going to go to Amazon MGM because they promised a theatrical release. So very, very interesting. Video game properties are like booming right now. Obviously, The Last of Us was a major success on HBO. The Sonic the Hedgehog franchise now has a spin-off television show, and they have their third movie with Keanu Reeves being cast now as one of the characters. Then there's other things like Fallout that was massive this year already so far for Amazon. So I'm curious if either of you guys have ever played The Sims, and what do you guys think about a movie based on The Sims? Because I don't even know how they angle this.
I have no idea. I've never actually played Sims. I've only ever watched people play. And I think that this film is actually going to do fantastic in theaters. I think every single person is going to be like, what is this? How are they making this into a movie? And so people are actually going to see it just so they can experience it for themselves. I don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to have the Sims like language in it like the whole time and just do subtitles? Like, I truly can't comprehend how they're making this into a script, but I'm hyped for it, and I hope it does really well.
Yeah,
like I hope it's an actual good script.
I'm interested in it because this is different in terms of the other video game properties that have been sort of adapted so far, that it's not heavily based in story. Like when people started pitching and deciding they were going to make films or television series based on video games, there was a lot of conversation like there's such ripe storytelling in video games that you could easily make it translate to film or television. The Sims is not in that mold whatsoever. It's very much like a party game. It's like trying to get people to just interact with one another and do crazy shit with their Sims. And so I can see it being, of course, like in a similar vein to Barbie, where it's like very meta and they're like very much playing off the joke. However, that worries me a bit because it's like you're kind of biting off the same
copying
of what you might have done with Barbie. I do love Kate Herron's sort of intricacies in terms of the direction that she did, even in Loki, this big, bombastic, sort of sci-fi epic journey that she was able to sort of whittle down to these really great character moments. So I'm interested to see what they do with it. Margot's obviously on a tear right now.
Huge.
And she's involved in such interesting projects producing-wise now. Like, she's doing these smaller dramas, obviously. She's working on the new Kogonada film, but then she's developing this and a Monopoly movie. So it's like so intriguing and interesting to me to see like all the big swings she's taking and all the interesting directions she's going in as a producer. I'm interested. I'm definitely interested.
I think she was just like, you know what, Barbie was like exceeded her expectations probably of the response, and now she's like, fuck it, let's just like make whatever we want to make now and see what lands.
Yeah,
it's kind of like what A24 did when they were really small. They had really big hits and made a ton of money in the early stages, and then they were like, all right, let's just start making films that we like, and if it's not like the biggest success, whatever.
Yeah. Zach, do you have any opinion on
I do respect Margot for doing, these are going to be cash grab movies, and that's like their purpose. And I can respect that. And, Margot, get that bread. She deserves it. She's doing artistic stuff. She's doing creative stuff and the cash stuff. So like, that's she's doing that all in her career. And the only thing that I am concerned about a little bit is, especially after the success of Barbie, Mattel is like specifically launching several campaigns for their next lineup of movies, which is like, I'm looking at it right now. There is a potential Barney movie, a
Daniel
Hot
Barney?
Wheels
Daniel
movie.
Kaluuya is directing, by the
Get
way.
out
No
of here.
way. A Hot Wheels movie.
Yeah, that was that's
Thomas and
directed by the
Friends.
director of Extraction.
I don't hate the Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheels
concept.
direct.
It'd be a crazy action.
Yeah.
Fast and Furious, essentially, is what it's going
But
to be.
it's like, why do you have to do it under the name of Hot? Like, it's the same thing. It's like, it's all this IP
yeah.
that is like, is that a good or bad thing for creative energy in Hollywood? I don't know.
Wait,
like,
the
I
Barney
really don't.
though is crazy.
Eh,
Like,
how
are
I
they gonna
feel.
go
It's dark,
dark?
and it's dark.
Get out of
Uh-huh.
here! Oh my god!
Yeah, there was an Uno movie in development, which I have no
Uno,
idea.
out.
And
I have no
Monopoly,
idea.
like, Monopoly. Like, this is how far can you go with Monopoly?
Taking it from somebody that
Yeah.
like in high school was making a toy box for an orientation video, and there was literally Mr. Monopoly in it. It's
Right.
like I should have monopolized.
Yeah,
my
you're like,
idea
wow, I
10
should have
years
done this.
ago.
And like,
maybe.
don't get me wrong, there's been like fun renditions of video game movies. There's been some flops. There's been some other good ones, like the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I
Yeah.
didn't even see it, but I know it did really well.
It's fun for what
overseas.
it is.
I fell
Yeah,
asleep
and
doing
I
that
do
movie.
think, I do think that there are other stories that deserve like priority, I guess.
Mhm.
But I mean, that's also up to every production company and who's willing to put out the money first. But I remember even hearing Jack Black say that he was talking about how movies are getting adapted. And he was saying like Red Dead Redemption is another good one.
Yeah.
It's like a Western storyline.
They've been trying to make that
Yeah.
for quite a while.
That's something that would be great.
Yeah.
But so there's other stories. I just don't want them to go like oversaturate. Like, oh my god.
Well,
like,
yeah, because that's the
a-
problem, right? Like even with
Yeah.
Marvel, like they went in a direction where Iger was talking about it recently. He goes, "We tried to do too much too quick," and it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, and now obviously off the success of Mario, like they're already like Chris Pratt was just talking in interviews, like I want a Nintendo cinematic universe. It's like, all right, we know that inevitably we're gonna get to Super Smash Brothers. It's the best-selling video game ever. Like people want all the characters to fight each other, but let it organically get to where it needs to get.
Let us
to.
get Sims first.
Yeah, and then and then I was gonna say, but with Mattel too. Now here's the interesting thing about where Mattel's at. Barbie was their first movie,
and now they have
ever.
a studio.
And they have a studio where they have all this money that they got in return.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
they can now play. So I hope they go in like a weird artistic
I
A24
do
direction.
too.
If they're
I
gonna do a Barney movie that's based on like a children's fear of Barney, like fuck yeah, dude. Like I want
That's crazy. That's absolutely
Who the fuck would
insane.
not want to see that
That's
movie?
what I mean.
Like genuinely. But yeah, Sims will be interesting though, because like Liz was saying too, and I think Zach was just saying like this movie will do so fucking well in theaters
Yeah.
because so many people play The Sims. And so many people would be interested to see how they would do. Like you said, like how would they
How
make
are they doing this? I
a
hope
movie?
the trailer gives nothing away. I
It's
want the
gonna give a
trailer.
lot away.
It's just gonna give the vibe. It's gonna be
It just
similar to
needs
Barbie.
just-
It's gonna be
just
similar
give us
to Barbie.
the vibe. Let us see, but don't give any plot points away because I think people need to go and actually get in the theater to see what this movie's going to be about.
There's probably going to be like 20 celebrity cameos.
Absolutely.
Like, because it's
100%.
also like an choose your character movie. So there's going to be so many people that show
I'm
up. I
hyped
think.
for it though.
But-
I'm interested. Good
what's
transition though, because
next?
we were talking about Margot, and we were talking about IP too. That Disney has been trying for probably around 6 or 7 years now, trying to reboot Pirates of the Caribbean. It is a big franchise for them. Again, based on literally a theme park ride that they were able to turn into this huge multi-billion-dollar franchise. Johnny Depp was synonymous with the character of Jack Sparrow, so much so that he was nominated for an Academy Award for playing the character for the first movie. And he's obviously gone as of now. He's not returning. But Jerry Bruckheimer, who's one of the big producers in Hollywood, and he produces all the Pirates movies, said to Entertainment Weekly that Disney is currently working on 2 different Pirates of the Caribbean movies. They hope to get both of them made, and I think Disney agrees they really want to make the Margot one too. So one of them is a female-centric pirate movie that would star Margot Robbie. She's been attached to it for quite a while. The other one is actually a reboot of the series that is going to be co-written by Craig Mazin, who is the creator of The Last of Us, and he also did Chernobyl, as well as the original, and someone who's an up-and-coming screenwriter named Jeff Nathanson. And the rumor is that Austin Butler is who they're looking to cast for the second Pirates movie. So I'm curious just on what your guys' thoughts are on the franchise of Pirates, where you think they could pivot if you give a shit, and also if you could pick maybe between the 2 of these movies and one of them got greenlit, if you could only get one, which one would you want to see?
Zach?
Are you talking about like in terms of the lead actor, like Margot or Austin?
Yeah, so one would be like a female centric story with Margot. There's no other there's no screenwriter attached as of right now, no director. And then there's the one that's currently being written that Craig Mazin would direct and co-write with Austin Butler, being rumored as of right now as the person that they would like to get. Disney wants to work with Austin Butler, which makes sense. He's
hot right
one of the
now,
hottest
and-
actors in
Yeah.
Hollywood. And he's a busy guy, but he also kind of represents someone I think that could be in the same vein as the way that Depp kind of handled the weight of the character.
Especially after seeing
Yeah.
him in Dune.
Yeah,
feel like
I don't think they're
everybody's
going to
now
do
like,
Jack Sparrow
Yeah.
again because they want to leave that door open that they could bring him back at some point. But I think
it's still going to be a very like
yes, 100%.
whimsical, like piratey vibe.
Think
from
of Timothée
him.
Chalamet and Wonka on crack, and as a pirate, and
just
that is what
drunk.
Austin Butler is going to
Just
be.
drunk the whole time.
100%.
I think that he would honestly be closer aligned with Orlando Bloom's character, like Will Turner, because he's more of the heartthrob of that story, and there's the romance with Keira Knightley. But I think if I were to choose one, I would go with Margot's, only because if you're gonna do a reboot this quickly, you want to go completely in a different direction, and I think Austin Butler, him leading that movie, it would stray a little bit too closely aligned with the previous stuff. But also, that's also if they incorporate like this supernatural feel, because there was like ghost pirates and there was Davy Jones and there was like more ghost pirates and there was like all this stuff. So if they do like a supernatural thing, or if they do a grounded realistic thing, I also just think that this is still very too soon for a reboot. And then there's also the drama that's been around how Depp got ousted from Disney. So I think that's very sensitive for a lot of people who I'm a big fan of the franchise. Like those first three were like my childhood movies. So I guess I'm more sensitive to it, but I guess I would reboot it a little later or go with Margot in a very different direction or perspective of the story.
Liz.
I just feel like, why does it have to be Pirates of the Caribbean? Just go make a pirate movie.
Right.
Like, go do a completely different thing that's not related to the franchise. Because I also feel like, I don't remember the name of the fourth film, but there was a fourth film that like Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley were not in, and I just was like, ew.
The one is Javier Bardem.
I think so.
That's the fifth one.
Oh, the fifth one. Okay.
The fourth one's with Penelope Cruz.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
they
those,
weren't in
I don't
either
know.
of
I
those,
just
really,
feel like
yeah.
if Orlando Bloom is not in these, I don't want to watch them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's your man. I keep
He was my
forgetting you
first.
love-
That was my childhood like crush.
Yeah.
That
Keira
was the
Knightley
first
was
one.
mine.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah.
See, so Zach and I don't.
Well,
want
I
no.
can give you.
I do love Margot though, so like
Yeah.
I'll always watch everything she's in. I hope they just don't ride the coattails too much of what the previous stories were.
Yeah, I hope they wouldn't do that either. I hope they would go in a different direction. I can give you the honest answer on why they have to make it Pirates of the Caribbean versus a non-Pirates of the Caribbean pirate movie, because casual audiences would not go see it,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. But
I
like,
would.
I know, we would. But
No.
the thing is, like, it's so interesting because like when I go and sit in a movie theater now, I'm always like listening to like try to see like what other people's perspectives are, and even like when a trailer comes out and I'm like, again, like out in the wild, so to speak, and you hear these like casual people just be like, oh, like there's a new like people are stoked for Beetlejuice because they're like, oh, it's a new Beetlejuice movie, instead of it being like a new weird like Tim Burton movie. Like Miss Peregrine's Home for the Peculiar Children did
Yeah.
terrible at the box office, even though it's very much in the vein of a Tim Burton movie, but people don't care about that. Like the unfortunate thing is that like Zach was alluding to before, like IP is such a massive thing. Like people want to see how they're going to adapt IP so they could either love it or they could shit on it. With Pirates, it's such a beloved franchise because it was adapted from this like original Disney ride and it came from nothing. Like the thing is, Pirates of the Caribbean is literally an idea that was in Walt Disney's head. And then Disney was like, we could probably make a movie out of this. And now they're in that awful trend of like, let's make a movie out of every ride ever.
Yeah.
Which is insane. But going back to the initial question, I would agree with both of you guys. I think that the Margot-led story would definitely be good because it would be somewhat of a transitional period where you can kind of get away from what came before it, let it stand on its own, and do something else. I don't think, like Zach was saying too, I don't think we need a new Pirates movie anytime soon. I think that we need more original stories, and I don't think we need. I do think the pirate world is interesting, though. I do think it's something that you don't really see a lot in movies, except for the Pirates movies. So I'd be curious to see it. Like I'd be more curious to see a new Pirates movie than like I didn't see Haunted Mansion, because like I saw the one with Eddie Murphy, and that was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. So
the original.
It's terrible.
Get out of here! I loved that. I love the first one.
It's so bad.
But the first one's like it's a childhood classic.
So bad. That movie
shocked.
That movie sucks.
Yeah, but like in the best way.
No, it's
when you're a kid though, you can appreciate.
I didn't even enjoy it as a kid.
Really?
Didn't like that movie.
The floating heads?
No, I didn't like it. Well, I know the ride. I know what the movie is.
When they sing.
No, I know. I get that's in the ride.
We need to move on. I'm like genuinely shocked right now that you don't like that movie.
Did you see the new one?
No, because I liked the first one.
So you wouldn't give the second one a shot?
Well, no, it looks bad.
It's like what another thing. Why would you remake it?
Again, they don't.
The original's good.
The original sucks.
Perfect. Right, I would even say
let's move on.
Hot take.
Jesus Christ. Let's
another podcast to come on that.
Terrible movie.
Okay.
Let's transition into something that we initially thought was a remake, but upon further review, I don't think it is. And it's an original movie, and it's from one of at least mine and Liz's favorite filmmakers. I don't know how Zach feels about him, but let's talk about After the Hunt, which is the upcoming movie, another movie for Amazon MGM. That Luca Guadagnino is going to be directing and writing. I believe he's writing. Oh, no, written by Nora Garrett. And this is going to be an intense, dramatic thriller about a college professor who finds herself at a personal and professional crossroads when a star pupil levels an accusation against one of her colleagues, and a dark secret from her own past threatens to come to light. Now, here's the cast for this movie after we just got the newest casting announcement. We got Julia Roberts, we got Andrew Garfield, and we got a breakout star from The Bear, Emmy winner, Ayo Edebiri. I'm stoked for this movie. I love the cast. All very, very different sorts of actors that obviously none of them have ever worked together with each other, which I love that. I love getting new pairings of actors. It's so exciting to me. And Luca's obviously on a tear right now. I mean, Liz and I love Challengers. Check out our review if you guys haven't yet. But I think that this is a really big role for Ayo. To get a major leading role alongside Julia Roberts and Andrew Garfield in a Luca Guadagnino movie is massive for her star power and her ability. But I'm curious, Liz, what are your thoughts on this movie?
I'm excited. I literally only have like positive thoughts. I think it's going to be great. I'm already interested in the story. They didn't give too much away. And I'm a fan of all three of the actors. So I really have nothing that I'm like worried about. I think it's great. I think it's perfect, and I'm excited.
Zach?
I think it's good. Yeah, I really like all of these actors involved, and I really like how Luca does very different topics and kind of has his characters drive the story. Like I feel like a lot of his films are like character driven in a way, not entirely, but like the plots are very roller coaster like, so I can appreciate that. And I mean, these are like Julia Roberts and Andrew Garfield have developed their skills, and Ayo's like just absolutely murdering everything she does in a good way, and I can't wait to see what that combination will be. So it sounds like Tar a little bit too, like the end of Tar. There's like a piece where like a pupil undermines her, like, so I can see maybe Julia Roberts is like the person that's mentoring
the Cate Blanchett sort of role. I'm interested because I feel like these three actors I haven't seen play around in thriller yet either. Now Julia Roberts probably has. I just don't know if I've seen personally. But Andrew Garfield, I can't recall him ever doing anything that resembled a thriller. And Ayo, obviously, like what we know her for so far in her career is mostly comedy. Like Theater Camp, Bottoms, The Bear, which obviously has some dramatic tendencies, but it definitely leans more comedy. So I'm interested to see sort of how they play within that sort of sandbox. And I mean, all actors seem to love Luca, like working for Luca.
Yeah.
So I'm interested.
I'm excited about it. I love Luca's films. I think he gets better each time too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Going back to Austin Butler for a second, there has also been a lot of rumor that Michael Mann will be making Heat 2 and Austin Butler is supposed to be playing the role that I believe it was Al Pacino's part.
I thought it was Val Kilmer.
Let me see. No, you're right. It is Val Kilmer. So Val Kilmer's part, and he was asked recently by Total Film about the Heat sequel, and he was very coy about like all of it. He was like, "Yeah, I mean, I love the first film, but no comment on that." And he's been seen doing a lot of special arms training and like doing a lot of hand-to-hand combat and guns, like off, like not filming for a movie, not prepping for a movie, just kind of doing his own training. So there's a rumor that it's supposed to be shooting in November. Butler, like I said, has obviously been attached to it, but not confirmed. The next movie he's doing is a new Darren Aronofsky movie, which is going to be in September. So right now, the summer, he doesn't really have anything besides that little part he's doing in Ari Aster's movie. What do you, Zach? I don't know about Liz. I don't know if we've ever even talked about Heat, but Heat is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's also one of yours.
It's up there for me, yeah.
And I'm curious because it's going to be the author of the original novel of Heat wrote the second book, and it's going to be based on the second book. So it's still kind of keeping the same team together, but of course no De Niro, Pacino. We're going to go younger. So because I think it's a prequel. So interested, Zach, on what your thoughts are on them doing this, and if they do decide to cast Butler in Val Kilmer's part.
Yeah, that I'm definitely really interested to see, but I got a little worried when I heard that Butler might play Val Kilmer's part. I was hoping that it would just be a time jump and that it would be somebody's son doing the same thing and getting involved. But, you know, if it's at least adapted from the next book, I didn't know that. But I also heard that Adam Driver was attached, like, or rumored to be.
He's supposed to be playing De Niro's part.
Interesting. See, that's just like, I like both of them. I just feel like they are very, like, Austin Butler's probably closer to Val Kilmer, but Adam Driver seems far from De Niro's ability, I think, and his presence, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Yeah, so the setting, it says it takes place before and after the original, utilizing flashbacks in the same vein, like how Godfather Part 2 did, with it largely focusing on Pacino's character and Kilmer's character. So Driver and Butler are the ones that have been heavily rumored. Ana de Armas has also been rumored to be in Heat 2 as well. So I'm interested. I do think Butler kind of has a bit of a Val Kilmer look to him, like when he was younger. So I would agree with you. I definitely feel better about him potentially doing the casting too. I think Heat is basically a perfect movie. So it scares me
I know.
very, very much that they're going to do a sequel. However, the new book was a New York Times bestseller. People apparently loved it. It's a continuation of that story. So that keeps me interested enough that I'm like, okay, if they follow it the way that they're supposed to, they could do something really interesting with it. And A Godfather Part 2, they did a great job. And they made The Godfather even better because of it. So I'm interested, but there's not much to talk about until
it's got very big shoes to fill.
It does. 100%. Liz, any thoughts? I'm curious if you've ever even
I've
seen
never
Heat.
seen it.
Oh
I've truly never seen it.
You would like it, I think. Yeah, for sure.
Maybe I'll watch it. I will watch it. But I don't really have a lot of thoughts just because I don't know the world enough to be able to be like, I think it sounds good.
It's a heist movie.
That's all I got.
It's a heist action movie with De Niro, Pacino, cop, robber, and I won't give you any more than that.
but it's a tense movie. Young Natalie Portman, too.
Oh yeah, she shows up.
Natalie Portman. She's Pacino's daughter in it. Wow, Liz, you gotta see Heat.
I know.
My God. Okay, moving on to A24. Couple different stories for A24. The first one is that A24 just got the rights to a film called The Death of Robin Hood, which is going to star Hugh Jackman and Jodie Comer. Michael Sarnowski is going to be directing this. So Sarnowski is the director that I'm almost positive. Here, I don't want to get this wrong. I think he did Pig. Let's say IMDb load quicker. Yes, he did Pig, and he's coming off of the new Quiet Place movie, which he just directed with Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn. That's not out yet, but he went from Pig to that, and now he's doing this film. It's fully financed. A24 is planning a theatrical release. The film follows an aging Robin Hood, which will be played by Hugh Jackman, grappling with his past after a life of crime and murder, who finds himself gravely injured after a battle that he thought would be his last, and he's in the hands of a mysterious woman. He's offered a chance at salvation. This film is going to begin filming in February of 2025, which means we probably won't see it until maybe award season next year. But it is an A24 movie. Very interesting pairing. Liz, I feel like this might be up your alley, but maybe I'm completely wrong. So give me your take on the death of Robin Hood.
This is up my alley, I think. I love Jodie Comer and this role. Hugh Jackman, I don't like this casting of him.
Interesting.
I don't.
Okay.
I think that's the only thing that's kind of making me ick a little bit. Like, I don't know. I just don't.
She went to ick.
I don't know. Like,
wow, man.
Like
That's big.
I like
Fighting words by Liz with the ick.
Stop. I like Hugh Jackman. I don't know. There's just something about like Robin Hood that I feel like he should be a little bit more like slimy or
Robin Hood's a good guy.
Yeah, but like there's also that level of like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I just associate like Robin Hood with also a little level of like douchebag. And I don't know. Hugh Jackman for me is just too much of like an honest actor.
Who do you think you'd want to see in this role if it wasn't Hugh Jackman?
Well, it sounds like they're going for somebody like a little bit older too.
Yeah, he's aging. Yeah. Well, let's see. Hugh Jackman is he's in his
like
50s.
An English actor, maybe.
Maybe
because Jodie is English.
I just don't like them together.
He's,
and like I like
Australian,
her in this.
Right? Hugh Jackman? Yeah,
Yeah.
Australian. He was born in 1968. That makes him how old?
I don't know. I just wish it was somebody that had a little bit more
almost
mystery to
60,
them.
yeah.
I want a little bit more mystery. And
Okay.
like him, I feel like he's just an actor that wears his heart on his sleeve.
Really
Interesting.
You guys disagree?
What are you thinking? Like Logan? Because that's like where
I'm thinking Logan, and I'm thinking Prisoners too. Like those
Oh,
were
yeah.
very outside.
Yeah, but like that's just like
himself.
I don't know. That to me is not Robin Hood.
No, I agree.
You
That's
know?
not.
Oh
Logan-
no, not Robin Hood, but I feel like that wasn't wearing his heart on his sleeve for.
But I
that
think it is
movie.
because he's so reactionary. Like he reacts. He does
Prisoners?
what he. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't
Yeah.
know. Robin Hood to me is a little bit more of like like somebody that like has cards
Like
up their
cockiness.
sleeves a little
I
bit.
kind of have a
Yeah.
Who do you
casting
think?
in
Who do you
mind,
think?
but it's not a British person.
Well, it doesn't have to be a British person.
I would love to see Sam Rockwell.
Ooh, that could be
Oh.
good.
See? Wow.
see that.
Casting
perfect.
agencies.
Casting.
I'm your
Yeah.
boy. Just bring me in.
I mean,
no, because he's played a con artist before. Because I agree. So I've never seen a single Robin Hood property in my life.
Okay.
Really?
Ever. Nothing. Not their
Wow.
animated movies, not the Russell Crowe one, whatever. Never seen any of them. Very interested in the character, just never had a chance to sit down and watch anything. But I do know that there's a part of him that's like very con artisty and like, always trying to do what's best for him over anybody else.
Yeah, and he like means well, but like
Yeah.
still.
There is a bit of that tendency in Hugh's portrayal of Logan Wolverine. You've never seen any of those movies,
No.
but he's very much like he doesn't give a fuck about anybody except for Jean Grey, who's his love interest. Everybody else, he's kind of like, it's all about me and you can go fuck yourself. So I see that in Logan. That's kind of what Zach and I were saying. But there's an element of the sort of conniving nature of Sam Rockwell where I think of him like Three Billboards or in like Matchstick Men. And like those are the kinds of things where I'm like, I could totally see him kind of being that kind of role. I am interested in the pairing. Now, another unfortunate thing, I still haven't seen a single thing with Jodie Comer in it. So I have no frame of reference of her as an actress. I hear she's amazing. I really want to see Killing Eve. I really want to see The Last Duel. What else?
Coming out in Bike Riders.
The Bike Riders will most likely be the first thing I see her in. Maybe I can see something before then. But everything I hear about her is that she's fantastic. I love that she's working with A24. She's also working on 2 projects right now with A24, both television series that are in development. So that'll be interesting to see. But because I don't have much of a frame of reference for Robin Hood or Jodie Comer, I can't add much either. But I do like the element of sort of like that aging version of the character that's so iconic and someone that like has this assassin sort of nature and they're kind of dying down and they're whittling to this woman. I think it's an interesting concept. But I'm not too sure.
We'll see.
Zach?
Yeah, I really like this idea. And the Russell Crowe movie, I feel like they threw out that charismatic, like scheming side of Robin Hood, like the Errol Flynn old movies, like old movies. Like he wasn't as witty, but he had this intensity about him. And it's in medieval times, so I kind of liked that intensity of it. So I think if they kind of play it a little similar with Hugh Jackman, and he's less charismatic and more broken, and then if there is a death of Robin Hood, and maybe it could take on like a Batman persona of like his symbol of like stealing from the rich, giving to the poor. Like that's kind of his whole mythology, I guess. But so I really like that. And I mean, Jodie Comer, I've been so hyped about her since like I've seen her in anything, and I feel like she deserves the stardom that like a Florence Pugh does, because she's got all that talent. I think she just has to get seen by more people. So that's pretty much it. But
All right. So that's Death of Robin Hood. That's our A24 project.
Yes.
Transitioning from Hugh Jackman, who played a character in X-Men, let's go to something which Liz has no frame of reference from, and let's talk about that the live-action X-Men movie has gotten their screenwriter. So this is coming off the heels of all the success of X-Men 97, which is this massive success. We have all our reviews on the channel, so check those out. Me, Vinny, and Mikey covered that whole series in its entirety. But obviously, X-Men, something that Marvel has been wanting to reboot since they bought Fox. And Michael Leslie, who wrote the Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which Liz and I did see, and we reviewed that on the channel as well. Michael Leslie is going to be writing the script for the live-action X-Men movie that's going to be coming out. There's still no date as of when this movie's coming out. They're just kind of starting and kind of cracking where they're going to go with this. But obviously, it makes sense because X-Men 97 is a success. Deadpool and Wolverine's coming out in July. Zach, I'll start with you because you have a little bit of frame of reference of Marvel and stuff like that. Other things that Leslie had scripted, just so you can get a little bit of a frame of reference for his work. Like I said, you didn't see Songbirds and Snakes, right?
No.
You hadn't seen that. Okay. IMDb is failing me right now. But anyway, give me your sense on maybe Marvel going in the direction of X-Men, and are you excited for it?
I think that X-Men is like, it's a good route for Marvel to do its transition, and there's a lot of fan favorite characters in Marvel that are in X-Men. A lot of them are in X-Men, and there hasn't been a great representation of them since the Hugh Jackman era, and then this animated show now is starting to kick that off in a good way. So yeah, I don't know. I just hope that they also stick to not going too crazy, and they kind of focus on the singular vision of like what X-Men is. But they also don't need to restart it completely, because we've seen like 4 different X-Men movies of like, oh yeah, we're getting all these kids with all these talents. Like this is happening. We're getting them to be superhero. Like we don't need to see that again. We could kind of just assume that they've been in the school together.
Yeah.
Or that they've been a team, and then they have to go out on their paths. Like I'm kind of sick and
The
I'm
origin
like,
story part.
yeah, I'm a little fatigued of like them. Oh my gosh, I don't know how to use my powers fully. And then by the end of the movie, they all figure it out. I'm like, we've seen that in every X-Men movie, just that, and then other superhero movies, the same thing. So it's like we're feeling fatigued from that. I'd like full superpower arc, and not just along with their characters. So I think if they like focus it more on the team and like the essential part of the team, that would separate it from other like Avengers movies maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Liz, so Leslie had done Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, also wrote Little Drummer Girl for AMC, did the Macbeth film with, I think that was the one with Florence Pugh.
I think so
maybe?
too.
And he's writing currently Now You See Me 3. That's going to be his next thing, and then once he's done with that, he's going to move on to X-Men. So I don't know if you've ever seen an X-Men film ever, if you have any frame of reference of the characters, but how do you feel about this news?
I definitely feel like I've seen an X-Men movie. I just don't remember which one, and it's been a very long time. I am a little worried of the writer just because I remember with Songbirds, I had a problem with the end of the film, and I think it was based on the writing and the screenplay. Although I have seen the Macbeth, and I did like how he transcribed that story. So maybe it was just a lot with Hunger Games because there was a lot in that
Trying
book.
to squeeze a lot.
Yeah,
in there.
maybe he just like got overwhelmed with trying to. Well, but that's what concerns me is maybe he got so overwhelmed with staying hyped with this big like franchise, which arguably I don't like X-Men is possibly bigger than Hunger Games. So it's like if he got fumbled at the end with that film, I don't know how well he's going to do with X-Men.
Yeah, so my whole thing is agreeing in terms of what Zach was saying too. The origin story, you've seen it so much, and so much of what the X-Men is based in, though, is that they're these kids that learn their powers and they're learning from Professor X. But I do agree that if we could transition into a little bit more of an adult version of the mutants, it would be interesting. Because what they do really well in X-Men 97 and in the best versions of X-Men is focusing on the impact that like politics and race and society have on the characters. And that's the one thing that I do like about the DNA in Songbirds and Snakes in comparison to X-Men, because there's such a clear societal divide that is obviously established in this film in Songbirds and Snakes. And I think that that's really important to establish within X-Men, because every single thing is based on the fact that they are like that society is being racist towards these mutants. It's a major, major plot point that unfortunately was like undersold in the original live action movies, but you see it to great extent in Days of Future Past, which I think is probably the strongest of the X-Men films, where so much of it is based on like the JFK assassination and what's happening with Reagan, and it's like crazy. So I'm intrigued. I really am excited because I love the X-Men. I'm excited to see where they decide to go with it. Part of me wishes they got a little bit of a stronger writer, like Liz had said too, like in terms of the actual the dialogue and the writing and the themes in which we can see these, how the X-Men are going to go. I haven't seen Macbeth, but I am curious, and I kind of want to see him more now, knowing that he's going to do this. He also wrote Hamlet, which is coming out with Riz Ahmed and Joe Alwyn. So he's apparently, obviously, like Spielberg, Shakespeare guy. Nice. But so I'm interested, but you know, there's a lot of, like Zach was saying before with Heat, like X-Men, there's some big shoes to fill. It's a very beloved property. So I'm curious to see where they go with that. Moving on to another A24 project. And this one kind of took the internet by storm a little bit this week, because Dwayne Johnson is going to be doing an A24 movie called The Smashing Machine, which is going to be directed by Benny Safdie, co-stars Emily Blunt. And in this film, Johnson is going to play an iconic MMA fighter named Mark Kerr, who struggled with addiction and his marriage until he became an icon and eventually went to UFC and things like that. The movie's obviously currently filming, so we got a first look where Dwayne Johnson looks kind of unrecognizable in the role. And Emily Blunt she's very small in the corner of the frame, but she also like just has a very different look to her, to me anyway. But the one thing that I noticed is that if you look on IMDb too, like the cast for this film, it's like just them, and then it's like athletes, like all MMA guys that like I'm familiar with, or like boxers. So I love the grittiness, I love the groundedness, and the Safdies are so good at casting people that are not actors as actors. But I wanted to kind of get your guys' thoughts on the first look that we got for The Smashing Machine. And are you guys excited? This movie was also announced that they said they're really, really trying to get it out for December of 2024 to make an Oscar push for Dwayne Johnson, for Emily Blunt, for Benny Safdie. So I'm curious what you guys think. Liz, we'll start with you.
I'm excited about this one. It gives me major the Iron Claw vibes. So I think that they're being smart about it, because the Iron Claw got completely overlooked based on when they I think they just didn't promote it well enough, honestly. And so I think if they promote this well enough and they'll get the attention that it deserves. I mean, he really does look unrecognizable. It's actually crazy. And I just love the Safdies. I think they have such a grit to their direction, and just like the films they make are so, I don't know, like they're just so hard. Like your heart is literally racing in all of them. And so I think it'll go really well with this storyline. And Emily Blunt's killing it. I mean, she's doing everything and is just really thriving. So I'm excited. I think it's a great cast. It's an interesting one. I didn't really expect that pairing. But I kind of like it. They did team up
once before.
In what?
They did Jungle Cruise. Very different
like
vibe.
I've ever remake. Seen
very
that.
different
Are
vibe.
You joking?
Very different vibe. But they had, and I think that was a big part of the reason in the reporting why Johnson brought in Blunt, because they loved working together so much. And it is cool that they're going to go in a different, I mean, that's very much a family film, and now they're going hard R sort of A24 vibe. Zach?
I was gonna say too. I feel like it's really interesting that this is coming out right after the success of Iron Claw, and I've seen like other patterns of like twin films. So, like I was looking up some other examples. There's like the Steve Jobs movie. There was 2 biopics of that. There was Bohemian Rhapsody. Then there was Rocket Man. Then there was like White House Down. Then there was Olympus Has Fallen. Like they're all kind of like twins and coming out at the same time. So I think that A24 is going with the success of Iron Claw, especially. And then they have Dwayne Johnson, who's also been a wrestler himself. So I thought that was interesting. I'm not a huge The Rock fan, but you know, I can appreciate him at least doing something that's pretty familiar to him and actually a little different than what he's been doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it will be interesting. And if Emily Blunt's involved too, she's on a hot streak as well. So I think she's doing good.
I'm definitely really interested in this for a lot of reasons. I think that the world of, and if people don't know this, I'm a big like combat sports fan and wrestling fan. So like I know a lot about sort of Mark Kerr's story and things like that as well. And Mark Kerr was in the UFC at a time where like there were no weight classes. So they would have like 350-pound guys wrestle like 180-pound guys. And it was a very different era for the sport. But there's a lot that's intriguing about this one because like how Liz had said, Benny Safdie, I think this is his first one by himself since the Safdies have taken a little bit of a break from one another. But Uncut Gems is another one of my favorite films of the last 15 years. I love Good Time. So I'm similar to you. Like the anxiety that kind of comes with their frenetic filmmaking is always exciting to me. And I'm always excited to see what they're working on. But the big thing that I had read about this was that Dwayne Johnson, because of the last couple of years that he's had in terms of press, and he put a lot of money into Black Adam and that movie failed, and a lot of his projects haven't turned out the way that he wanted them to, he said, I'm going to start from the ground up and I want to do something gritty and I want to do something that can maybe net me some serious actor like consideration to work with other filmmakers because I don't think that that's kind of happening for him. So I do think it's interesting that they're doing this. Benny Safdie's been wanting to make this movie for 19 years.
That's crazy.
So it's one that's been obviously in the in his brain for a long time, and seeing Emily Blunt sort of have a pedestal with A24. I don't think she's ever worked on an A24 movie before. And they're in this new trend, even with like the last story we talked about with Hugh Jackman and Jodie Comer, like they want stars now.
Yeah.
Like A24 wants to be able to work with stars, and I think it's because they're losing a bit of money and they want to be able to start getting some of that kind of back. And I don't know how much this movie's going to cost, but again, if you're only paying The Rock and Emily Blunt, it shouldn't be too crazy. But I think the first look, like we said, like it doesn't look like Dwayne Johnson at all.
No.
Very interested to see. It's still in the same vein, like you guys said, Iron Claw, also getting some vibes of The Wrestler, also getting some vibes of Warrior. Yeah. So it would be cool to see, like all these movies are ones that I really love. So getting to see Safdie do something in this world is definitely really cool. We have one story left. And it is a movie that's going to be happening, another one for Amazon MGM, where Mark Ruffalo and Chris Hemsworth are going to be doing a crime movie called Crime 101, which is an adaptation of a Don Winslow book. And trying to just get to... it centers around a detective, Lou Lubesnik, as he attempts to solve a string of jewel heists by tracking the perpetrator, who follows a strict set of rules known as Crime 101. Kind of giving me some Zodiac vibes a little bit with that.
A little bit, yeah.
Mark Ruffalo, who was in Zodiac, like I said, is going to star in this with his Avengers co-star Chris Hemsworth. Zach, what are your thoughts on Crime 101?
I don't know, because this could go like two directions. This could be like a pretty serious movie, or this could just be a very cheap, like Now You See Me type of movie, where it's just like a con artist or like a fun action crime movie, like, and it's something I turn on Netflix for 2 hours and I forget about because they made another one the next year. Like, you know, it could be something like that. Hopefully it's a little more serious, given that Hemsworth is trying to do stuff with Furiosa lately. Like, he's trying to do something different than his big muscly hero, you know, like he's trying to do something, and Ruffalo's obviously doing something very different with Poor Things. So I don't know. I hope it's different than what I'm imagining, I guess, because we've seen it happen a lot.
Yeah.
But
I think that I agree with you, Zach. It's an interesting sort of turn for the filmmaker too, Bart Layton. So the only other thing of note that I see that he did was American Animals, which came out in 2018. It's another heist movie.
Ooh, okay.
So it's interesting that he's going back to another heist movie. I don't know if that's his choice or again, kind of Hollywood pigeonholing him. It's been 6 years since he's made a feature, but also Kevin Spacey, I think, was in American Animals. I don't know if that had anything to do with maybe him somewhat getting gray listed from Hollywood. I don't know. But I am like I hope Hemsworth starts to do some different kind of stuff because I do think that he has the ability to do things. He's just not really given the opportunities as much. Ruffalo, I think, is one of the most talented working actors today.
100%.
So I really am. I anything he does, I'm usually like excited about. Seeing him and Hemsworth do something a little bit different could be interesting, but. Yeah, I am worried it could be in like that Now You See Me vein as well, where it's like, oh, it's just like a popcorn movie, and
it's a fun like buddy action movie.
Yeah, I want something gritty.
Yeah.
I want something a little bit more grounded.
I think it'll be really telling because right now they're saying that the film is aiming for theatrical release. I think if they end up not doing the theater release and they just go straight to Amazon, it means it's a dud.
Or they could be going in like that Roadhouse direction, which still could be that it's it could be that it's not again, it could be that it's not a serious movie, but Roadhouse was a very popular movie for them. So I'm saying
but that's because Roadhouse was
it's silly.
Based on original material.
It had connections. This is a whole new one, and I feel like new movies that specifically go on Amazon without any prior release kind of don't do the best in my opinion.
That's probably fair.
Yeah. Like if it was maybe going to Netflix, then it would, because Netflix movies, if it's just randomly put on Netflix, most people are like, oh, new release, let's watch it and see what happens. Amazon, I feel like the only reason you go and watch a movie on Amazon is because it's something you actually want to watch.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, Amazon doesn't have that pull yet.
No, of the
Netflix
let me casually browse and just put something on.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Their like artistic catalog is a lot thinner than the other streamers, I think, for sure.
So that has been our first ever news episode, guys. We covered a lot of stories in there. What are you guys intrigued by with all those stories? Are you guys excited for X-Men finally getting a writer? We got the Sims movie coming out. We have Dwayne Johnson doing a serious turn in A24. Let us know in the comments what was your favorite story. And like I said, if you guys are a fan of us covering the biggest news in film and television throughout the week, we'll continue to do more of these. So let us know in the comments, definitely, for sure. Be sure to give this video a like if you can. And again, if you could subscribe to us, we have the Culture Wave Media Network. We do a bunch of movie and television reviews. Like I said, we just started doing news. We have a new show called Real Drafters, which mixes sports draft as well as with film and television. So please be sure to tune into that as well. If you can follow us on social media, we're at Cinema Wave Media on Instagram and at _Culture Wave Media on Instagram, as well as at Cinema Wave Media on TikTok and Threads, and just Culture Wave on Facebook. Just signing off, I am Darian Scalamoni.
I am Liz Seiko.
I'm Zach Miller.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.